Good afternoon, family. Once again, it's your DC dude. If you are already a subscriber to this channel, then welcome back. However, if you are new to this channel, I recommend that you hit the subscribe button and the notification bell so you can stay in the know about where we're going to go. First and foremost, family, please excuse my absence over the last few months. Let's just say life has been showing up in such a way over the last few months that has not afforded me the opportunity to put any videos out. But trust and believe that DC Dude channel has not come to an end. The last time I did a video was November 18th, and that was in 2022, of course. And that was about the Korean War Memorial and how it related to African-American history. If you remember, I did a couple videos about African-American historical places in DC, like Mary McLeod Bethune's house, Malcolm X Park, I think it was the African-American Civil War Memorial on U Street. But then those were off the beaten path. Then I jumped back onto the beaten path in terms of the touring circuit in Washington, DC. Places like the Capitol, the White House, the Lincoln Memorial, the Jefferson Memorial, that touring circuit. So what I wanted to do was talk about a few of those things and how it relates to African-American history. So I did one about the Capitol already. I did one about the last one, which was Korean War Memorial. That area where the Korean War Memorial is, tour guides refer to it as the Big Three, because it has the Lincoln Memorial there, it has the Korean War Memorial, and the Vietnam Veterans Memorial, all in walking distance of each other, all in the same little location, right? So now that we did the Korean War Memorial, this video we're going to pick up with the Vietnam Veterans Memorial. Now I'll start talking about the memorial itself, and as the video goes on, I'll get into how African-American history relates to this memorial and relates to the Vietnam War in general. I actually shot that video on November 22nd, 2022. So you'll notice in the footage the trees, some are missing leaves, but others are colorful during that fall season. And so as fate would have it, we find ourselves returning to this African-American history in DC in February, the month of February 2023. In Black History Month. So without any further ado, let's just dive right in. Because today is the 9th of February. There's only 19 more days left in Black History Month. I wish I could have got this started sooner. So what I'm going to try to do is get as many African-American history in Washington, D.C. videos as I can before the month ends. So let's do this. So the second of the big three we're looking at today is, like I said, the Vietnam Veterans Memorial. It was actually dedicated on Veterans Day on November 11th, 1982. So it recently had a 40th birthday a couple weeks ago. Today is November 22nd. So before we actually go to the wall, I think this is a good diagram. So this is a book here. Looks like they're posted up at different places along the route, right? And the war itself was from 1959, 1975, right? So the wall is right behind me. And if you look at it, it angles in the middle. We'll go look at that in a minute because you can't see it from here. But what we can see is this diagram. So this diagram, where we're going to start the wall, starts in 1968 and goes to 1975. So each panel has the names of soldiers who lost their lives in the order of when they lost their lives, right? And then where the wall angles, which is going to be right here, it's going to pick up from 1959, and it's going to be the east side of the wall to 1968. So its design is meant to be like a circular thing. You know what I mean? So 1959 is when the war started, but then it circles around to 1968 again, right? Leaves off at 1968 here, circles around to the beginning of the West Wall at 1968, and then goes to 1975. And the last name on this what can I say? This panel right here, this black granite panel would be the last soldier who lost his life. And the first one in this in the east side would be the very first soldier who lost his life. Let's go take a look. So this last soldier here would be the last soldier who lost his life in 1975. Then if we come up here to 1959, the first one, I can't see, you probably can't see it from here, but it's Dale Buis, B-U-I-S. He will be the first one who lost his life in that war. Also, you can go in the book as well, and if you know, you can look up the person's name. It looks like they're all in alphabetical order, where on the wall, they're actually in order of, we talked about earlier, is when, of their death, in the order that they were killed in this conflict. So we're walking down towards the wall now. And like I said, this is the west side of the wall that begins in 1968. And it'll be on these panels here. It actually starts on like the 1, 2, 3, 4, fourth panel. Looks like fifth panel. And then in the middle down here we're going to go to is actually the beginning and the end of the wall. I don't know if you can really see this. So the wall gets taller as we go down, and it's the memorial is actually sunken in the ground. So we're going down, and the panels get larger as we go. And when it gets to the two tallest panels, that's going to be where, I guess, 1959. Yeah, 1959 is when it began, and then 1975 is where it ended. I repeated that a lot, but that's basically how the wall is set up, right? So right now we're heading to where the wall angles off into the east direction with 1959. And see, it ended right there where the flowers are down there in 1975. And there are over 56,000 names on here, only 8 of which are women. During that time, they weren't fighting they weren't actually in infantry positions. They were actually predominantly nurses during that time. And matter of fact, they have a memorial just for women. We're going to take a look at later. But first, we're going to head down to the statue called the Three Soldiers, or some call it the Three Servicemen statue. So you might be asking yourself, as I did, why did it take an entire 2 years after the wall was built to add this statue? Well, like everything else in DC, there is a story, and a controversial one at that. And really, it's only fitting that the Vietnam Veterans Memorial is controversial, just as the war was. So let's begin that story with an Asian American sculptor and designer by the name of Maya Lin. Maya gained national recognition when she won a national design competition for the planned Vietnam Memorial at the young age of 21 years old. Awesome, right? But when the design was chosen, there was disagreement among many Vietnam veterans and their supporters. I mean, they felt that a black wall with names just wasn't enough. I mean, why couldn't it be like other war memorials with statues and flagpoles? Well, folks, these protests caused so much commotion that the then Department of Interior Secretary James Watt got involved and initially refused to allow the construction of the memorial on the National Mall. So this brings us to the three soldiers statue and this flagpole. This was the compromise reached. This larger than life group of statues is near the west entrance to the wall. The sculptor Frederick Hart described the statues on his website this way, quote, I see the wall as a kind of ocean, a sea of sacrifice that is overwhelming and nearly incomprehensible in the sweep of names. I place these figures upon the shore of that sea, gazing upon it, standing vigil before it, reflecting the human face of it, the human heart, end quote. The statue depicts a lead soldier modeled after a white 21-year-old Marine, flanked by a Cuban-American soldier carrying a machine gun on his shoulder, and a young African-American who is a composite of several different African-American men used as models. According to Jesse Holland, the author of the book Black Men Built the Capitol, it was appropriate that Hart included an African-American soldier in the group. While the Korean conflict marked the first time black soldiers served in non-segregated units, the Vietnam conflict marked the first time the number of African American soldiers in a conflict reached parity with the American population. The Pentagon estimated that approximately 12% of the combat deaths in Vietnam, or more than 7,000, were among blacks, almost exactly the percentage of blacks in the American population. And those African Americans served honorably, with 20 men winning Medals of Honor. The first African American to sacrifice his life in the Vietnam War was Army Private First Class Milton Lee Olive III. Olive was a paratrooper in the 173rd Airborne Brigade, known as the Sky Soldiers. Olive sacrificed his life by spotting and falling on a hand grenade, saving 4 of his troop mates. Because of this Mississippi native's selfless action, President Lyndon Johnson presented his family with a posthumous Medal of Honor at the White House 6 months later. Moving right along to the Vietnam Women's Memorial. This memorial is a dedication to honor the over 265,000 American women who served around the world during the Vietnam War. It is the very first memorial in the nation's capital honoring women's military service. Although women soldiers did not serve in combat in the Vietnam conflict, they did, however, serve in multiple critical capacities. As I mentioned before, they served as nurses, but also as doctors, air traffic controllers, communications specialists, and also in intelligence officers. So in addition to African American men serving honorably, so did our African American women. So according to Jesse Holland in that same book, Black Men Built the Capitol, he said one of the African American women who showed exceptional bravery during the Vietnam conflict was Lieutenant Diane M. Lindsay, who became the first black woman to be awarded the Soldier's Medal for heroism. While working in the 95th Evacuation Hospital in Da Nang, a confused soldier attempted to set off a grenade at the hospital compound. He pulled the pin, but Lieutenant Lindsay rushed over and, with the help of a male soldier, convinced the berserk soldier to surrender the grenade. Because of her quick thinking to heroic action, she was awarded the Soldier's Medal for heroism and promoted to captain. Family, thank you for joining us today. I do hope you enjoyed the video, and I look so forward to reading your comments. Family, if you want to learn more about Maya Lin, the designer of the Vietnam Veterans Memorial, there is an entire exhibit for her running at the National Gallery of Art since September 30th, 2022, all the way to April 16th, 2023.
There's an entire room just for her down in the National Gallery of Art because Maya Lin was not just a designer, but she was an architect and a sculptor as well. So this huge exhibit spans over her extensive 40-year career.
Meanwhile, family, you never know where we're going to end up next. So if you want to ride, just click on subscribe. Squirrels walk right up to you here. I don't have a snack. Oh my gosh. I'm telling you, squirrels in my neighborhood just don't do that.